Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Taco Society Presents. This time we're on the road again. Co-host Phil, Perron, and myself went to Haverhill, Mass, and we spoke with John McIlveen, the author of Inflections and Hannahware, and we interviewed him in his home, as well as author Scott Goudsward, who has written Trailer Trash and Horror Guide to New England. We'll talk to both authors about their books and a few other things. So hopefully you've grabbed your libation of choice, your snack of choice, and sit back and enjoy the show. Good evening and welcome to the Taco Society Presents. We have a special remote shoot tonight. We're with Phil Perron.
How's it going?
And John McIlveen. In fact, we're at John's house. He was gracious enough to let us come down here and do a personal interview.
Up close.
Up close and pretty. We're going to start off with Phil reading the bio, and then I'm going to ask John some questions. And then after that, we're going to go to Scott Goudsward.
Close.
He's back there. He's manning the camera, and when Scott's up, John's going to man the camera. And we'll be doing the same with John, Scott, asking him some questions and letting him do a little bit of reading. So, why don't we start?
All right, very good. And John, thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
And we appreciate your hospitality. And your better half's not here, though.
No, she's in Jersey.
Very well. All right, so this is John. This is your bio. I've known you for a couple of years now, but we have a written bio here. And let's begin. From Nashville, New Hampshire originally. And this is John M. McIlveen, is the author of the paranormal suspense novel Hannahware, and two story collections, Inflictions and Jerks and Other Tales from a Perfect Man, which is also compiled in the collection Inflictions. He is the father of 5 daughters, works at MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, and lives in Haverhill, Massachusetts with his partner Roberta Colasanti. John has an affinity for black licorice, whoopie pies, and good tequila. All of John's work can be found at all major online book sales outlets. His website is johnmcilveen.com, and he can be found on Facebook.
5 daughters.
Yes.
And you look as good as you do.
They keep me in shape.
I guess they do. Well, I've also known you for many years, John, and you've actually been on the show twice. Once at the NHEW reading in Anthicon, and once as moderator for a panel at Nikon.
Stutters McIlveen.
Oh, you did great both times. Let's just talk about the NHEW for NEHW for a minute. Did I say that wrong the last time? I'm sorry.
Tony, what does NEHW mean or stand for?
It's the New England Horror Writers Association.
Oh, okay. Which I think we're all members of.
I think we all are. Yeah, we are all members. Okay.
HWA, are you all members?
Of the what?
HWA? No?
Oh, I am. Yes,
Yes,
I am. You're a member of the association, and you're a very active participant at Nikon. I mean, every time I go out, you're either on a panel, or you're in one of the discussions. You're doing more and more every year, which I think means something. But when I say means something, it means you're getting higher up in the hierarchy.
I've been one of the coordinators for about 20 years.
20 years?
About 20 years. I've been going for 32 years. But
Holy, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Nikon almost went belly up about 20 years ago, and a bunch of us, Christopher Golden and a number of us, got together and said we can't let Nikon die. So we tried to pump some new blood in there and get it going again.
Oh, you did a great job. Yeah, I've only been going for 6 years, and I can remember Nancy Calanta saying, "You gotta go to Nikon. You gotta go to Nikon." And
right.
Finally, she mentored me and took me down, and I haven't looked back. I mean, it's been 6 great years, and I absolutely love it. We've talked about it on the show before, so I guess I can't stop talking about it. But you really, if you're out there in the TV land and you're always wondering what it's like to go to a convention where you learn about writing, you meet writers, Nikon's the place to go.
It's specifically speculative fiction.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, speculative fiction, horror, dark fiction, yes. I guess my question is, you're published with Nikon eBooks.
Right.
Jerks is that your first
That
collection?
that was my first solo project
Okay.
with Nikon. It was, of course, Bob Booth, who started Nikon, He's the whole Booth family, very generous people, and they are very, as I said, very open to any Nikon participant, anyone who's been with Nikon a number of years. They'll publish you, and
So you approached them and said, "Hey, I've got this this novella or book of 5 stories, or this collection, I should say."
not so much. I think it was kind of over a couple of beers with Matt Bechtel, but Matt Bechtel, who's part of the family, he's a fantastic guy, and
Matt is great.
yeah,
Yes.
and we talked about, hey, let's do a little something, and I just happened to have the 5 stories and one little essay in there. It was my humorous work. A lot of my work has humor in it, but
Yeah,
these
we're gonna get to that
are
later.
very strong humor oriented, and so we figured Nikon will do that, and so it's kind of a, being part of the family for so long.
Well, that was, I mean, I've read short stories by you, not realizing they were you. And when I picked up Jerks, I said, that's John's work. And I was pleasantly surprised. It was great.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to jump a little bit. It's still related, but now you're with Crossroad Press.
Yes.
And you publish Inflictions with Crossroad Press.
Yep.
That's got 5 stories in it also. I mean, he's got all 5 stories from Jerks in it,
Yeah.
plus other stories.
19 other stories. And
19?
one novella and 18 other stories, I should say.
Why did you include the 5 stories that were in Jerks in Inflictions?
It's just, Inflictions is just a collection of all my publishable work. Yeah, I've had a number of things published that weren't worthy of being in its own. But this is all the work, and we felt that it would complete my scope of work in that one book.
So this is a great way to get what you consider your good published work
Right.
all at once, and know what kind of, and understand what kind of writer you are, get to appreciate your style.
Yeah, and I felt leaving the humor out of Inflictions. A lot of the stories, as I said, do have humor, but it wasn't a representation of what I write. It was like, it would just have all dark or all emotional stories, and not these like Jerks is totally off the top.
Exactly. I've got that question later on, but let's just jump to it now. I was going to say, most of your fiction, and I'm thinking Jerks, is very humorous, and I wrote down it's off the top, and you just said the same thing.
Right.
It's almost extreme at points.
Yeah.
Horror, humor and horror is hard to do. It's hard to pull off.
Right.
There's a couple people that do it really well. You've got Stacey Longo, who I think really does it well. And
Oh,
Jeff
for the
Strand.
humor.
For the humor.
Yeah. Stacey is funny.
Well,
yeah.
Stacey and Jeff Strand, they're both 2
Yeah,
examples.
Jeff's amazing.
Jeff's he's wonderful. In your case, stories like Jerks, Signs, and The Bore, which is published by Horror World Press, Eulogies 2.
Yeah, if I may cut in a little, The Bore is an interesting story because the way it hit different people. Chris Jones, when he accepted the story, he said, "This is the funniest story he ever read." And on the other hand, Christopher Golden said, "It's the saddest story he ever read." And when I was writing it, I was thinking, this guy, what is the how totally mundane can you get with a person? And that was my goal there. And
It worked.
yeah, and so yeah, it's definitely got humorous elements, especially if you like the extreme part of things. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think it to have humor work in horror, does it have to be over the top? Does it have to be extreme?
Oh no, think of British humor. It's subtle. It can be a little wacky and over the top, but Bob Newhart is one of the most subtle comedians, and that guy is hilarious. I mean, no, it's like anything else. You've got certain, you've got as we said, the very quiet humor that can be, put you on the floor laughing. Then you've got the Tim Conway, who's over the top kind of humor. So yeah, no, I don't think there's any special recipe to humor. It's just I think it's in the presentation.
Okay. Now I'm going to circle back and talk about Tom Piccarelli once told me that you should never confuse the author with his work.
Right.
And I've got to admit that horror people and all these names you just mentioned, all these people are wonderful people. They're
Right.
great, caring people. They're some of the best people I've ever met.
Right.
You know, as a not only as an organization or people that belong to this organization, but or genre, they're just great people. People you want to know no matter you know, whether you wrote horror or liked horror or not. They're just great people. But we all have a dark side. You know, we all have an idiosyncrasy. We all have something that we don't want other people to notice, or we don't want other people to see because they would think less of us.
Yeah.
When you're writing your stories, do you, or even your novels, is there some way that you're attempting to wrestle with your dark side? Are you trying to vent some anger? I mean, I'm not saying you have to admit anything, but I'm just curious if it's an opportunity for you to let some of this aggression or pent-up feelings out.
I think, yeah, I think every writer does. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm an open book, but
You are.
yes. But I think we you know, deal with certain things like in Hannah, nothing is more disturbing and upsetting, especially for a parent being the father of 5 girls, than child abuse. Not just child, but women being abused, anybody being abused. I've always been a big, you know, supporter of the underdog.
Abuse seems to be the spine that holds Hannah together.
Absolutely.
Whether you're talking about domestic abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence. Where did this come from? Why did you decide to base Hannah on those themes?
Because it is one of the things that really gets under my skin. It's something that shouldn't be hidden from the public eye. I think, you know, you don't have to go out there and say, yeah, I've been abused, I'm this and that. But I think the public is, a lot of people find it, you know, taboo, it shouldn't be mentioned. But I think it's something that we should be more aware of. And it's kind of what I try to do with
This is your way to bring it to the public eye.
To bring it to the public eye. And Roberta, my partner, being a psychotherapist, definitely has a lot to do. She had a lot of input in the book from the psychology side of things too. So that helped a lot. And that's why I felt the book, you know, a lot of the reviews talk about the accuracy of the situation there too. And we get Roberta to thank for a lot of that.
Why don't you give us a synopsis on Hannah? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a little girl is discovered behind a dumpster in a Boston suburb, which is, it's Haverhill. And this girl is, no one knows who she is. She's a mystery. And
What age, by the way?
Pardon?
What age is the girl?
The girl is, they were not really sure, but she's between 7 and 9 by the looks of it. And so she's brought into the hospital, taken care of, and given to ward of the state. And a social worker named Deborah Gillen is given her case. And Deborah, through discovery of who the little girl is, discovers that she's been missing for 2 years. And also, she has a twin sister that went missing at the same time, and no one knows where she is. And so, in the search to find the little girl's sister, the little girl's name is Hannah, they discover that another realm called Hannah, it's where a lot of abused kids they dissociate and they travel to the safe place, you know. And so Hannah is that safe place.
But it's usually in their mind.
In their mind, but because of a traumatic events that happens, they take it a step further. It's almost to the point of astral travel. And Deborah, through dealing with the Hannah and Hannah's case, finds out a lot of information about her own past that she's kept.
She's got repressed memories.
A lot of repressed memories, and together, they, you know, it could be a disaster or it could end out good. You got to read the book to find out.
Yeah, I have read the book,
Yes.
and I think it is fantastic.
Thank you.
It's very, very fast paced. It's very sad in places. It's very exciting in places. Paul Wilson said it was a revelation.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, his quote went on longer than that, but he was very accurate. It's a great book, and I really can't recommend it enough to any fans of dark fiction. John, how about reading something for us, for the audience?
Absolutely.
What you have for us?
Well, it's a short story. I won't be able to read the whole thing, but it's geared at the young adult, but it's probably a little above. You know, it treads the edge right at young adult and adult.
Can folks find the story somewhere, or is it up?
Not yet, not yet. This is
nice.
in the process, so it's
First here,
yes.
here,
And
publicly.
Yeah. It's not publicly on.
Yes.
On, yes.
yes. All right. All right. It's called Teacher's Pet. All right. In Noel's experience, few things compared with the first day of school. But root canals, third-degree burns, and amputation fit the list well. School held absolutely nothing redeemable for him, nothing to look forward to. For what was enjoyable about busting your hump trying to keep your head above water? He had managed somehow to maintain passing grades, but the phrase skin of your teeth was generous in his case. His parents had often accused him of being lazy and an underachiever, but he figured, what was the sense of trying when even his best efforts were met with criticism? Excuse me. A 90? Why heck, son, that's still 10 away from 100. Why, when I was a junior, a 90 would have been unacceptable because I was class president, captain of the debate team, and star quarterback of the football team. And I could juggle 6 double-bladed chainsaws running full throttle while carrying 3 unconscious mountain climbers to safety from the stormy summit of Everest, Noel amended the thought bitterly. The actual truth was that his parents were average enough folk, who cared quite a lot for him, and wished for him to achieve great things in life. And he was lazy and an underachiever, but he felt that would change once he got out of this crappy run-of-the-mill town. Noel felt that if the world were to end right then, he would have wasted nearly his whole life in school. Kyle Granger had the right idea. He had hit the road earlier that summer and never looked back. Noel had often thought about doing the same. He looked across the classroom from his self-appointed throne at the far back, watching the mindless interaction of his peers, be it as it may. The mating ritual and its juvenile presentation irritated him. Sure, some of the girls were hot, with their overly made-up faces, artery-choking jeans, and meager tops that accentuated and manipulated their assets to the fullest effect, making mountains out of molehills. Regarding his so-called peers, it was easier to hate them than to obsess with the reality that they wanted nothing to do with him. He had nothing in common with them and never would. At the far wall, a kid wearing an Under Armour sweatshirt, Ben something or other, jokingly slapped the girl's back end. The girl smiled prettily at the goon, fluttering cable-thick eyelashes and cranking up her feminine appeal. He could almost hear her pheromone factory kicking it into overdrive. If Noel ever tried anything that nervy, he'd surely be slapped. Hell, he'd be arrested for harassment. Morons, Noel mumbled. Who asked the girl sitting behind him. He recognized her from previous years, but couldn't put a name to her. She was on the pretty side of plain, but she used no makeup and wore very simple clothing. Trial some Mary Kay on her, squeeze her into skinny jeans 2 sizes too small, and she'd go from not very hot to trot in no time. Everyone, you're all morons, Noel said with a sneer. She searched... Oh, okay. She searched his face for a moment, and then she rose and moved to another desk. Good, he thought, tilted back in his chair. He was bored senseless. He wanted to be somewhere exciting, do something exhilarating. He wanted adventure, anything besides sitting in the abhorrent classroom, whiling away another year while humiliated and hating himself. Then things suddenly got interested. As she walked through the doorway, the classroom went silent, girls and boys alike. Even Ben the goon stopped to watch her as she moved with silent confidence past the teacher's desk and up to the chalkboard. With tantalizingly long and delicate fingers, she lifted a piece of chalk from the tray and wrote Miss Dewar on the blackboard.
What a great way to end, Miss Dewar.
Yeah,
We kind of know what's going to happen.
yeah, a little pun there for...
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, John. It's great to be able to sit down and talk to you for a little bit.
Well, thank you for...
We really appreciate it. I think out of all the Taco Society Presents shows, you probably have more airtime than any other guests we've had. So we think the world of you, and thank you for letting us come in your home
Thank you
and do
very
this.
much.
And you're going to get behind the camera for us, and you're going to tape Scott's interview.
All right.
Thank you, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Taco Society Presents. We just had a great interview with John McIlveen, and we're going to have another great interview with Scott Goudsward. Did I say it right?
Close.
Goudsward. What?
Close. Goudsward.
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 Scott Goudsward. Great to be here with you,
Thanks
Scott.
for having me.
Sure.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
And we're here with Phil Perron, Scott, myself, and we're going to ask you a few questions. Actually, Phil's going to conduct the interview this time.
Excellent.
I'll read a bio, and then we'll go from there. But it's good, again, it's good sitting down with you and talking to you again. We spoke a little bit at Anthicon, but this will be a full length.
Excellent. Anthicon was a great time.
Oh, it was a wonderful time, and look forward to it again next year.
I hope so.
Me too. Okay, Scott Goudsward is the author of numerous short stories, screenplays, and novels. He has had an avid interest in the horror genre since seeing the horror classic Friday the 13th when he was only 13. By total accident, he hails from the same odd New England town, Haverhill, Mass, that produced Puritan axe murderess Hannah Dustin, beloved abolitionist poet John Greenleaf Whittier, spelled wrong, and TV host Tom Bergeron, and heavy metal rocker and movie director Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie.
Yes.
Haverhill High alumni. Just don't call him that because he hates it.
Oh, well, next time I run into one, I'll make sure I don't say it. Go ahead, Phil.
All right, Scott, it's glad to have you here again. You've been on the show once before at Anthicon, I believe, where Tony interviewed you, and
He grilled and drilled us.
he did, and well, we do have a few questions for you. The main question I want to ask you, because we were usually a fiction, we talk about horror fiction, but you actually talk about, or I should say written about and edited things about quote unquote true horror and things. Why don't you explain something about that, because that's kind of interesting.
The nonfiction I do is primarily like geographical indexes to where horror is set within the industry. So you can look at where short stories and novels and movies such as set are based out of. So with the books me and my brother have done, you could open up to like Worcester and see about the X-Files episodes that were filmed there.
Which book is that in?
Horror Guide to Massachusetts, put out by Postmortem Press.
Oh,
And we also put some local legends and folklore in it, so you can read about Haverhill's axe murderess, Massachusetts axe murderer Hannah Dustin, or where Rob Zombie used to play football on the way to and from school. So there's some real stuff in there, but primarily it's all where fiction is set within the state.
well, I wrote a review on that for Horror World, and one of the things that I mentioned was there's so much humor. It wasn't knee-slapping type things. It were just little subtle digs, little subtle comments that when you finished one of the entries, you couldn't help but smile.
A lot of that's David's work. David did a lot of the bulk of that. We would feed him the information. David did all the classic horror, and I was doing all the more mainstream stuff, because that's where my interest in lies.
Very good. And another thing I noticed too in your fiction, which is specifically some of your fiction that I've read has what I would call mental illness, people who have something wrong with them, and the horror comes through that rather than, say, true supernatural or outside humans that do bad. Why don't you explain how you've turned quote-unquote mental illness into horror tales?
When I was in college 1,000 years ago, I wanted to be a psych major, but instead I dropped out and went to retail and started writing instead, so I don't know how that worked out or not, but I think that mental illness, as horrible as it is also a good catalyst for stories. When you look at mind disease and what it leads to, how people were experimented on back in the day, when all the witches in Salem were thought to, it was all supernatural things, but in reality it was all, psychological stuff going on from the people around them. It was just paranoia. and it's just turning that into different short stories. In Anthology Year 3, which is put out by the folks from Shaw Publishing, I have a short story in there called The Chorus of Plastic Songs, which is about a kid who thinks he hears plastic doll heads singing to him. So he has a giant garden of just the doll heads out in back of his house.
I just read that today, as a matter of fact. Yeah, great story.
It was a fun story to write.
Yeah, that was a good tale, and a lot of good stories are in there. As a matter of fact, a lot of good local authors, as a matter of fact. And me too, actually. And I think John too.
Yes.
But I have a few more questions for you before we get into some of your readings. But I have to say that you are a machine, and when I say that, you edit, you write, and you do so much for the organization that we were discussing with John, which is the New England Horror Writers Association, getting all the conventions people together so we can all promote our work and so forth. How do you juggle all those things? Because I mean, the editing alone is crazy. I mean, editing other people's works, but to just be able to do writing, running this great organization, and just having a life.
Well, the life thing kind of takes second seat to everything else. The editing, we basically, when we were doing the various anthologies, Wicked Tales and Wicked Seasons and Epitaphs, we just I set time aside for it. When I did Once Upon an Apocalypse with Rachel Kenley, we had a certain reading period, and then when that was done, it was over with just choosing stuff, and then you need to schedule reading versus writing versus editing. So once you get the proofreading done, then you can actually read for yourself for once. And then if you ever read Stephen King's On Writing, you set up a schedule to write a certain point every night until you hit so many words, and then saves like 1,000 words, and in 3 months you have a novel. So it's a matter of getting to that schedule. I haven't quite mastered that yet, but I'm working on it again.
Now, I guess one other question I had was something that surprised me, because I had no idea until last year that you actually aren't just nonfiction work as well as short stories, but you write novels, and you just mentioned how you, Stephen King, the 1,000 words. What was that your ultimate goal, to write novels? Because I've always known you until last year as someone that was a short story person.
Novels was my first love, and like everyone else, I've got a bunch of trunk stories which will probably never see the light of day because they're just awful. No, I can see that I wrote them. They're bad. I started doing NaNoWriMo a few years ago, which is National November Writing Month, where you write on 50,000 words in 1 month. And I've done that a few years. In a couple of years, I actually wrote decent novels, and a couple of years I wrote pure crap, which again is my stuff, so I can say that. But one of the novels I wrote for NaNoWriMo is going to be coming out from Postmortem Press in probably a couple of months.
Great.
Called Count from the Dead. But I love writing novels, but it's just a matter of, I think like everything else, you need to just have the discipline to sit down and write it. When you're looking at a short story, I mean, you can hammer out a short story in a week. When you're working on a novel, unless you're under a deadline or a contract, then you're looking at months and months, in some cases years.
But let's talk about that just for a second. Is it a chore for you to write? Do you have to sit yourself down, put a seatbelt on, just focus, turn everything else off? How do you write? I mean, do you go through that schedule that Stephen King said to do?
I've done it several times, and I've produced mass quantities of words, some of them not so good. But I have to sit down at my chair in front of my computer. I have my TV on going in the background, which is muted, but I need that little eye distraction every now and again. And I have progressive music blaring at my computer, and without that, I can't write. That's the routine for me.
What's progressive music?
Raw, Dragon Force, Dream Theater, Nightwish, Camelot. That's my writing soundtrack.
No heavy metal?
It's all metal.
It's all heavy
Yeah,
metal?
it's all progressive metal.
Shows you where I'm from.
Because I was thinking Yes and Rush.
Yeah, so was I. I said progressive.
That's also in there. I love Yes and Rush. I've seen them both.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, yeah.
Not so much, but I know them. I've heard of them, but they're not in the they're not in the roundabout.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you one last question before we get you to read some of your work. You, based off of what we've discussed, you've had a well-round. You've written novels, you've written short stories, you've written nonfiction about horror. What do you like doing the best, and what has been something that you would say that most people would say, oh, that's the best thing, you have to recommend it, people have to read it?
I think the best stuff I'm going to say is the nonfiction. To be honest with you, you know, it's very deep. We do a lot of research on the books, and I think a lot of people enjoy reading them because they learn stuff from them. I mean, the fiction's fun to write, but nothing's really groundbreaking in it, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Like when I did Trailer Trash was a lot of fun to write, but at the time there was just a slew of vampire novels coming out. But I love the little book.
Besides the New England version, or the Massachusetts version rather, what other versions do you have coming out?
We have the Florida version coming out probably in with, I'm going to say, a month. We're working on New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Vermont all at the same time right now.
Great.
Nice.
Good.
That's awesome.
And you have one other nonfiction book also, don't you, about New England, or?
Shadows over New England.
That's the one,
It is
right.
officially out of print. We took it out of print when we started up with Postmortem Press.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's not available anymore?
No, unless you can find it on eBay.
Okay. And since Phil didn't mention it before, or maybe you were going to, but before Scott starts to read, Trailer Trash happens to be published by
Great Old Ones Press.
Great Old Ones Press. Phil just enjoyed the novel so much they had conversations, and Phil's group is going to publish it.
Yep, actually, about 3 weeks ago, I think it came, and it's both on digital ebook as well as we see here, the trade.
So it's Trailer Trash will be available where all fine books are sold.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm gonna turn this back to you.
Excellent.
Unless you had something else.
No, I think this would be a good excerpt. Just a matter of finding where I was.
So you're going to read from Trailer Trash.
I'm going to
Very
read from
good.
Trailer Trash.
Excellent.
Now, the book itself is about 6 years old, and it's been picked up by a couple different small press, and I'm very happy it is where it is now. It's based on my first professional sale as a writer on the story Trailer Trash, which was out by Design Image Group, God knows how many years ago. Anyway,
Has there been any changes to this edition?
just the ISBN.
Okay.
It was the beginning of August and the hottest damn day I could remember. Back in the trailer park, rotating fans covered each stoop. Everyone was dressed in shorts and t-shirts, trying to beat the heat. The women would cool themselves with artificial oriental fans, and all the men would drink beer and eat popsicles. It was your typical day in the Starry Night trailer park. I was up in the game room with Jimmy Riley, my arch nemesis and best friend. Jimmy had this mop of red hair and freckles all over his body, and I mean all over. Rumors floated up to the park how Jimmy was the product of a passing UPS delivery man, which is why Jimmy's dad beat on him so much. Both his parents had dark hair and blue eyes. Jimmy had green hairs and a bush of red hair that curled up every time it got humid. The game room the game room also doubled as the eatery. There were 4 red picnic tables with chipped paint, 3 pinball games, and 6 old video games with faded screens from where the images were burnt into them. The 3 walls facing the outside were big sheets of plexiglass and wood bases. The 4th wall, the one attached to the kitchen, was more of a half wall where you order your food from, and you always have to shout over the drone of the video games for anyone to hear you. We were playing Asteroids, and I was going for my all-time high score. Just when I was about to go into hyperspace, into a clean spot, Jimmy went off and belted me upside the head. It was like this giant flash of white light, and then when my vision cleared, I was looking up at him from the floor. Jimmy was all smiles, and I could see the gap in his teeth from where his father knocked out the front tooth. I thought the, bad word, had smashed me with a rock, but he was just staring over me with clenched fists. Me never being much of a fighter, I did what my daddy always showed me. I pulled back my leg and kicked up as hard as I could. All the air left Jimmy's body, and after grabbing his privates, he crumbled to the floor. Jimmy and me were still good friends. This is just what we did to pass the time. I still had 1 life left of the machine, so I played until the ship got destroyed and one of them little flying saucers got me. Stepping over Jimmy, I decided to help him up to one of the tables. There were tears rolling down his cheeks, and he wasn't moving real fast. I kicked him square in the bits, and the only way anyone would be seeing his nuts again would be to look up his nose. A long road, all cracked and scarred with rubber, ran from the game room all the way down to the trailer park proper. By the time I had walked it, I was soaked with sweat, and being so close to the river, it seemed like every damn mosquito in the state was there with me. The first trailer I passed belonged to Mrs. Koch, who we nicknamed Mrs. Crotch, on account of the way she smelled. She was a dear old lady who liked to bake cookies that you could never eat, because he never knew if she washed her hands or not. But on a hot day, you could smell her 5 trailers over. Her trailer is what Mama called cute. It was green and white and had a canopy on the stairs, and all around were wooden sunflowers, wooden chimes, and faded pink flamingos. When Jimmy and me were on a tear, we could trample every damn flamingo and not break stride. Mrs. Crotch, around with the damn wind chimes, we didn't need any weatherman. We just listened for the chimes and waited for the smell of rain. We'll stop it there.
John, come on over here and we'll say goodbye as a group. Well, this is kind of cozy, huh?
It's cozy, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, God. Thank you for watching this edition of the Taco Society Presents. John McIlveen, Scott Goudsward,
Goudsward.
I'll never get that right.
McIlveen. There we
Some
go.
way. It's been a great time. Thank you. This is the first time we've been to someone's house, and we really do appreciate, John, you taking
And
the
hospitality.
yep,
Appreciate
taking the
My
time
pleasure.
to give us the tour and to let us set up here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you again hopefully very soon. And thanks for watching. And we are the Taco Society Presents. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Both Phil and I had a great time at John's house, and we really want to thank him for his hospitality. And we also want to thank Scott for taking the time to sit down with us. We'll be bringing our remote cameras to other places, other homes and locations in the future, Maine, southern Maine, or central Maine anyways. We're thinking about that. We're thinking about New York, New Jersey area. And we're also looking going all the way down south to Virginia. All those locations have a boatload of authors and illustrators and people that are publishers, people that are connected to the dark fiction community, and we think you'd really enjoy hearing their stories also. So thank you very much. If you need to get a hold of us, if you want to leave a message, a critical comment, whatever, please look at the addresses at the end of this, on the screen at the end of the show, and we thank you.